Hey, what is up, everybody? This is your boy AJTRIP, and welcome to That's a Shoot. Usually, my weekly evidence-based show will talk about what's going on in the world of professional wrestling. Now, as you may notice, we haven't had a That's a Shoot since the Elimination Chambers prediction video. Myriad of reasons for that. One, had a couple video games come out. We had the WWE 2K25 video game come out, and we had the MLB show video game coming out, and I've been playing those, obviously, things like that. I have reviews for both of them up. You can go and check those out. I also had issues with my computer. My power supply seemed to be damaged. I would turn on the computer, I'd be in the middle of doing something, and the whole computer would just shut down. So I had to get a whole new power supply. So then there's that, and then just this past weekend, I went back to Charlotte to be there for my cousin's birthday. Turned one of those special birthdays, and some of the family wanted to go there, and so I went there with my mother. So it's all good. I would not be doing one this weekend as well, because I also have some prior engagement this weekend as well. So nothing come out. So the next one that you will see on Friday will be the Stand and Deliver / WrestleMania 41 predictions episode, which will come out on the 18th. You will have that. So, but I thought, well, I should do a special edition of That's a Shoot. Why not do one? Because I do have some comments and thoughts on a couple of things, 3 things in particular that have been going on recently that I want to speak on, and I think is really interesting. So I thought I'd go ahead and do a special episode of That's a Shoot for you, right? Hope you guys will enjoy it. So we got 3 topics we're going to talk about today. And I think one of the topics has ever since last week has been burned in my mind, and I think I know why. And let's go ahead and let's talk about it. So last week there was a major angle on an edition of, can you call it Monday Night Raw? I guess it was Monday Night Raw for London. It was not Monday Night Raw for us here in the States. It was Monday afternoon Raw. But yeah, it was an edition Monday Night Raw where we had Jey Uso taking on Gunther. And it's been burned in my ever since that week. And the reason I think it is because of the simulation of what it meant to see Jimmy bleeding like he was. We have not seen that type of blood in the WWE in 15 years. At the least. There's always that thing where it was that match between Michaels and Jericho, but they were kind of getting away from the blood. And Michaels talked about this with Chris on one of their podcasts. I don't know if it was Jericho's podcast or Michaels' podcast when Michaels had one, but they were talking about how he felt like they were getting away from doing a lot of the blood, but he convinced Vince to to go for it because it would mean more for the match being stopped and things like that. It would mean more. So Vince allowed it, and he was just supposed to get a little bit of color, but it went, Michaels, and it went, Crimson Mask, and Vince just said, okay, we're stopping it completely. But so we haven't seen that type of blood in this. Now, blood for the most part, it's been used sparingly here and there. I've been calling it a prick job because I don't think it's like a parade, because whether it was on Raw with The Rock, you know, getting Cody, or whether it was even like last month Elimination Chamber with Cody getting the AJ Styles Cody match, not Backlash, but last year the I Quit match, getting a little color, not too much. Like that. Oh, well, whatever. Whenever they have gotten intentional color over the past, you know, year to year and a half, it has been. It hasn't been enough. It's been enough to where you say, "Oh, he's been," you know, where you can get the sympathy for the babyface, or even say, "Yeah, heel, you deserved it," something like that. It's been like that. And of course, we're not talking about Drew's thing, because that was I really thought it was a blade job, but it wasn't. He got split open for real by the corner of the toolbox, and he had had to get 15 staples in his head because of it, and so that was a gusher of all gushers. So I'm not talking about something intentional, and I don't know if it was meant for this to be like this, or if just the situation, because there are certain times in business where they don't mean to get a lot of color. It's just to get a little bit, just to again show that the whatever happened has happened to him, and he's getting some damage. But sometimes in the thing of things, it's just there, and one of the reasons why they call it crimson mask is that the sweat mixes in with blood, and that's why it comes down to the face, and that's why it covers the face. So really, while it's normally it's just maybe just a little, just a little bit, the sweat makes it come down, and then and that's why you get the quote unquote crimson mask. But there are the times that even when you get just a little bit, it's just things happen, and then the blood flows, because this head wounds, and that's why they do it like in the head, in the forehead, top of the head area. Head wounds bleed a lot. Head wounds bleed enough so that it will, so that you'll get the color that you desire. So and then, so again, I don't know what necessarily what happened, but Jimmy's color, it looked, it looked. It looked good for at one point, but when 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 Gunther power bombs Jimmy, and then he turns him up and he starts to airbomb, you can see that it's starting now to pour from his wound, and so as you can see that when Gunther then locks up the thing and he releases him, he's just covered in it, all up and down his right side of his body, and it's a visual that, again, that you just haven't seen in a long time in WWE, and it meant something. It meant something, and that's what I think most importantly I get from that. It meant something. You've got other places who do it, and they do it a lot, and they do it multiple times on multiple shows, and it loses its meaning to it. It loses its meaning to it. Like that's why I'm like so glad that I've always thought wrestling doesn't really need blood. It doesn't really need blood, but I've always admitted that there have been times when it's used, and it's used properly, and you have to say, wow, and this is one of these times. Like these are not two girls hitting each other with glass on their fist, dipping their fists in glass and then hitting each other with it. it's just stupid, and it makes no sense, and it's just out unrealistic, and it's just makes you look things, and then on the same night you got two guys in a cage match bleeding, so you got four people bleeding on one show, you know, when if anything, you know, it should have just been one time, because like we can even go back to Elimination Chamber, right? Just like you think about it, like Kevin Owens, and maybe we should speak a little bit on Kevin Owens as well. And it's not one of the topics that I had planned, but maybe we should speak on him just a little bit. But you think about Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, they bring out a barbed wire steel chair match and an unsanctioned match. And so you got to think, whoa. And then even Kevin Owens goes head first. And when Kevin Owens goes head first into the, barbed wire steel chair, I'm thinking, and the camera cuts away. I'm thinking, oh, he's getting ready to get a little color. Because I think the color he get at the Royal Rumble wasn't on purpose. Yeah, I think that was accidental, because just from him going through the ladder or hitting his head on the table. Which, by the way, now that we know what we know about Kevin Owens going through the ladder, although I saw something on TikTok where he was talking to somebody, and he was like, I don't think those things really didn't make a difference. He got hurt in this normal match, but he still wrestled all those other two matches. But anyway, like I said, we'll get back to Kevin Owens in a minute. But see, that didn't draw color from him, because they were saving the color for the Cody thing at the end, which made that means if Kevin Owens gets color, or Sami gets color in that unsanctioned match, it doesn't make what happens to Cody at the end feel special or feel different. And that's what I like, and that's what I'm loving about this right now, because I think and I'm thinking that Triple H is just doing wonderful jobs of doing this, because I don't want WWE to be is that other company. I don't want it to be a blood and guts company. And I think if you're going to use blood, it should be used on a special occasion to make it mean something, right? And I think another thing happens is that when you are getting the accidental color, during the Vince era, they're not, they would wipe it away and just try to stop it. They're not really doing it unless, again, it's getting in the Drew McIntyre type of thing, where they didn't even stop the match, but they did give him a towel so that he could wipe himself off. Because as we remember, they stopped and that may be a different reason. That's a cut in the back of the head. So maybe there's something. Maybe you want to stop back in the head. Cut in the Finn Balor Edge Hell in a Cell match, at WrestleMania 39. So maybe you want to stop that, Although I'm not even sure where his cut was. So and Vince was still a part of that. So there's a lot of things there. Anyway, all of this, what I'm trying to say is that many people have been saying that has saved the Jey Uso Gunther feud. Now, I would say that I've not been one of those ones that said that this feud needed to be saved. I thought the hatred towards this Jey Uso and Gunther feud has been stupid. I thought it has been ridiculous. I think it was one of those things where these people are rebelling against something for no reason. Jey Uso's not a guy who's going to throw suplexes or anything like that. So that they don't think he can work. That even a guy that I have tremendous amount of respect for. Jim Cornette doesn't think Jey Uso's the best worker. He talks about the punches and everything like that. I would disagree. I think Jey Uso's a great worker. Listen, he's you know, if during my time doing this on this channel, I think I've given 2 tag team matches a 5-star rating, and both of them involved the Usos. The main event at WrestleMania 39 Night 1 and the Hell in a Cell match with the New Day from like 2016, 2017, whenever that was. So, and I think I've given, and I think during that time of being the longest reigning tag team, they had tremendous matches. And I think I probably gave those matches 4 stars and all those things like that. So, you know, and tag team wrestling is different than singles wrestling, I know, but I think Jey Uso's got it going on. But I will admit that some people just wasn't into it. But a lot of people now have seemingly gotten into it, and I think they've gotten into it, you know, because of this angle, and it's at the perfect time. We're just a couple of weeks away from WrestleMania. So, not a couple of weeks away. We're 10 to 12 days away with 2 shows left. You know, so it's gonna be interesting to see what they do tonight and next week for this. Now, let's really quick. Let's talk about what do I want to see. You know, there was some talk, especially like on. I just talked about Jim Cornette, listened to his podcast recently, and him and Brian were going on back and forth, saying, should you you put the title on Jey Uso? Well, yeah, I think you have to, because that if you don't put the title on Jey Uso, that kills him. That kills him dead. And they really got away with it doing the Saturday night's main event stuff. You see, I don't know if they needed to do the Saturday night's main event with match with Jey Uso and the thing, especially when Jey Uso was going to win the Royal Rumble. Yeah, I don't think they really needed to go about it in that manner. But they're going to it now. And I think they maybe even that was a little bit going into this, because they were like, well, we just saw this at Saturday Night's main event. Why are we getting this again? You know, why is this the next battle for, Gunther? And again, I got another topic that may breed into some of that dissent of these feuds and everything like that. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But I really think, yeah, you got to get Jason. Now the question is, what do you do at WrestleMania? Because this is something where now, you've got to get Jey Uso not only has to beat him for the title, he's almost got to get revenge for what he did to Jimmy. So now, how do you do that, right? Do you have Jey Uso beat Gunther within an inch of his life? I think there's 2 ways you can do this, and I just talked about not wanting this to become a blood and guts company. I when you do blood to mean something. But there is a part of me that wonders: could you just have could you do with Jey what you did Jey Uso and Gunther, what you did with John Cena and JBL? I just this weekend watched the John Cena JBL match from Judgment Day 2005, where John Cena does this horrific blade job. 2 back-to-back years in a row, where first is 2004 with Eddie, and in 2005 was Cena, who JBL just, and again, I mean, they talked about the forehead bleeding and everything like that. So who knows that in both things JBL just beams him with a chair. They go and get their color, and they come up, and it's just coming down like a water faucet, and you just, so you don't, so you don't know. So, and I say that like, is that something that you want to see happen? You know, with this in this situation. Do you want what happened in 2005? John Cena beat JBL at WrestleMania for the title. They had that match at Judgment Day, and it's the blood. It's the I Quit match. But John Cena beat JBL so bad that he actually quit. Is that what you want to do with Jey Uso? Do you want Jey Uso just to go to WrestleMania and win, and then at Backlash have an I Quit match, and have it to where Jey Uso beats Gunther within in his life so much where the big bad Gunther says I quit. You know, do you want to do that, or do you want to just have Jey Uso beat Gunther at WrestleMania? You know, and have that be the revenge. And I think either way works. Either way works. But I think whichever way you do it, you have to make sure that Jey Uso's, you know, he's beat. I think you have to see Jey Uso beat Gunther like nearly within the inches of life. Like maybe you don't have to do like the, you know, the blood where he gets, again, you don't have to make this blood because company. He doesn't have, you know, just because he busted open Jimmy, Jey Uso doesn't have to bust open Gunther. But maybe you do things with it, so where again he's been into his life, to the point to where Gunther has no other choice, you know, to say I quit, or even at WrestleMania, it's just a beat down. Maybe there is a ref bump, and maybe Jey Uso gets a chair and just wears out Gunther with a chair. Wears out Gunther with a title, but just puts everything, puts him through tables, suplexes, you know, does everything you can. Again, like I said, we're gonna find out, because they may change the match. I'm talking about doing an I Quit match. You know, at Backlash, they may come back and do a special visibility match. Come at WrestleMania, change it around. So who knows? So. But yeah, I think the Jey Uso Gunther thing has been on my mind just because of what happened last week, and it's been amazing. And I can't get over that picture of Jimmy, you know, bleeding like he was, and everything like that, and it meant something, and I loved it, and it was a great angle, and I seriously cannot wait for WrestleMania. I don't think. Even though Triple H did this with Austin Theory, I don't think this is Austin Theory. I think Jey Uso's now, without question, winning the championship, and I think this is the most one I'm certain of. So my predictions happens next Friday. Yeah, I think this is the one prediction right now I'm certainly sure of. So let's go on to our next topic. So, this past Friday, like I said, I was out of town, so I did not watch too much of the SmackDown. Then we get back to the hotel after we was out at dinner and everything. I went back to the hotel to watch the final hour of SmackDown live, something like that. I do have it recorded. I've seen most of the stuff on TikTok, so I don't need to go back and watch the full show. I do want to watch the whole Rey Fenix match, because I want to see what that is as the end, just breaking apart of it. I do want to see the whole thing of it, see it in what interview. But everybody's talking about the Charlotte Flair, Tiffany Stratton stuff, and there's a lot of the stuff out there. They went off script. They started shooting on each other, basically. And what this goes back to the split screen face-to-face interview, where the majority of the people felt that Charlotte Flair took the young whippersnapper to school in the interview and really made Tiffany look bad. And you know, on one hand, I can understand that. I can understand that because yeah, Tiffany did seem to not, you know, didn't seem to know what she was into. But that's what this business is, right? You know, they go off one way as much as scripted as it can be. Sometimes when you can make that turn to go unscripted, it gets even better. And this has been done for ages, right? Where the veteran and the new guy are in a battle, and the older guy takes advantage of them. I'm watching this on LFG right now with the new WWE show, and they've talked about where like the veterans would. But actually, Gunther was talking about this, where you're forcing your your opponent to bring something out of them, and you know, and there was one I remember on the Steve Austin thing. We talked about the Big Show, and there was one thing where Steve Austin was kind of doing the Big Show, and Big Show get mad at him, and Steve Austin was like, "Yeah, that's the shit I want to see." So there's been a lot of things out there where like the veteran, tries to get something out of something, wants to get something out of the younger cat, the younger thing, and that may have been what Charlotte was doing here with Tiffany, trying to get her something like out, right? So and you can definitely see that since then they've tried to give Tiffany that thing where so she can kind of get back at Charlotte. They gave her a couple of, I think 1 week they gave her a promo where they, she was able to snipe back at Charlotte, and it was good. And I think that's what they wanted to do Friday. Again, this is a face-to-face in-ring one, but they wanted to give her that. That ability to kind of snipe back at Charlotte, but something happened. The Chicago fans started to do the Dominic Mysterio thing, where they're just booing, and they're trying to booing so much so that Charlotte won't talk, and or can't hear Charlotte or whatever. Charlotte seemed to get rattled by it because she couldn't start getting to what she wanted to do, and that was strange because Charlotte's at the point to where she's been in this business long enough to where if that starts happening, you should just talk over them. Talk over them, and talk louder, and talk over them. Get what you need to get out, right? There's no need to do. See, Dominic is doing it on purpose. When he starts talking and he stops and he gets mad, because he's doing that on purpose so that he can go back with the Spanish. Hey, all that stuff. But if you're not doing this with Charlotte, and that's what Logan Paul is doing. They're doing it to Logan Paul in some instances, and Logan is just continuing to talk, make sure to get his stuff, try to get his stuff out. And that's what Charlotte should have done here, but she didn't. She started to get rattled. She started to whatever, and Tiffany took advantage of it. And I think Tiffany went off script a little bit. And at one point, Charlotte says, "Go ahead, Tiffany. You say what you want to say." And Tiffany says what she has to say. And Charlotte then starts to mock her voice, and everything like that. And again, I don't know if that was her script, anything like that. I don't know. I haven't read too much about it. I want to find out some more. There's a couple videos I think that I have not watched yet that will explain more of it. But things like that. And then apparently, I guess Tiffany then goes off script and starts talking about her marriages. I'm guessing that went off script. And you're going to be alone. So what are you going to be? 0-3. Talking about she's been married 3 times, and divorced 3 times. Charlotte Flair recently went on Sherry Shepherd. I guess start the early promotion for WrestleMania. I can't remember if Sherry's a wrestling fan or not. I can't remember. I want to say that I think Sherry is a wrestling fan, so maybe that's why she had Charlotte on. But whatever it was, she was on there. I guess she got emotional. Listen, she's been married 3 times, failed married 3 times, and she's talking about how she felt like she fell and everything like that. So it's an emotional thing, no matter how strong of a person that you are, there are things that hurt you, and there's things that are that you deal with, and you just it is what it is. So I don't know, and I feel for Charlotte for that. And I think some people should feel for you would feel for anybody like that, going through some of those personal things. So then Tiffany brings this up. And then she rolls out of the ring and get this, and then Charlotte comes back with, "Is that why Kaiser's in my DMs?" Which again, we know off screen that Kaiser and Tiffany are a couple. That has not been brought to on screen. So then Charlotte says this. And I think there was something a few weeks ago where I think maybe there had been something where Ludwig Kaiser, it was something, I think it was, I'm not sure what it is, but I think it was something to the fact of that Ludwig Kaiser did do something with Charlotte, or it was somebody else. It was something like that, but and kind of looked as if maybe Ludwig Kaiser was maybe trying to keep on Tiffany. I'm not sure. I can't remember again. I don't remember exactly what it was. But then she brings it up, and everyone's like, "What?" So we're just out here shooting on live TV again. So there have been some reports that it looks like there's a little bit more heat on Charlotte than there is on Tiffany. Charlotte's the one that's been kind of going off script with these things anyway. So that was just Tiffany kind of stepping up and showing that she wasn't gonna take it. Which again, this is what you're trying to do, right? Just the veteran trying to bring it out of the youngster. That's what some people say. That's what John Cena was trying to do with Roman Reigns in the promo, where near that promo, and Roman forgot his promo. Yikes. So there was certain things there. Here's the thing with her, right? And this is another feud that many people haven't felt too keen in. And again, it's part of the fact that they didn't think the build was any good. I thought the build was getting totally fine, just like Jey Uso and Gunther's build was. I thought it was totally fine. Some people went into it, and some people again, they have this irrational hate for Charlotte Flair. It's kind of ridiculous. Again, just like the similar irrational hate for Jey Uso. I think it's ridiculous. I don't think it makes sense, and I don't think it's anything ridiculous. She's the greatest women's wrestler. I think there ever has been. I think she's the greatest women's star, the biggest women's star in professional wrestling that there probably has been. One of the few women I think that could actually draw, a house. And then if they do Evolution, if they do Evolution, the all women's pay per view, I think almost certain that Charlotte Flair would probably be in the main event, of that pay per view in some form or fashion. Just a drug because you want to see her get beat. So it's so again, like I'm wondering what happened here. And I'm wondering, how does this affect WrestleMania? Are we going to get the whole Charlotte Flair, Nia Jax temper tantrum again, where they seem to be shooting on each other? Are we going to get this with her and Tiffany? And again, we've got 2 SmackDowns until WrestleMania again to see what happens with them. What are they going to do? Are they going to continue talking, sniping at each other? Are we going to get shots thrown at each other? Real life shots. So it's very interesting, and it once again has brought a little bit more interest back into this feud for some people. So we'll have to wait and see. But the Charlotte Flair Tiffany Stratton thing is very interesting. This might be one of those ones where it's like the personal and professional thing is now crossed over, and it's one of those things where they may not like each other, but at this point they need to work with each other. I don't think we're in Brett and Sean territory. We'll see if there's any sunny days, or hell, maybe the Ludwig Kaiser in my DMs was the sunny days. Sunny days line. And by the way, now I'm going to end talking about this topic right here. For those of y'all who are online, once again, like saying that, Ludwig Kaiser's not leaving Tiffany Stratton, for Charlotte Flair. First off, and I've said this for years, like stop putting down Charlotte Flair's looks. Guys, stop doing it. Charlotte Flair is a beautiful woman. And yes, she's had some transformations, over the years. Again, that's something that she's also, brought up with and talked about, some of the confidence things with her. Now she felt maybe she should look, things like that. So, stop with that, man. It's a beautiful woman. And you don't know what somebody like, what somebody like, and you don't know the personality, right? Just because someone you think may be more attractive than another person, but another person may not be thinking physically, they may be thinking emotionally, right? So just because you might think someone is more physically attractive than someone else, don't we see it all the time in real life, right? You look at somebody and say, wow, he's got, that he or she's got a beautiful spouse. Find out they're cheating with someone that you said, really? She was cheating with her? But or him, but there was something else that was taking them there, and that they were giving that person that their spouse wasn't. So and again, I'm not making assumptions that there is anything going on between Kaiser and Charlotte. I'm gonna make sure I'm not saying that it is, but I'm just letting y'all Nimrods out there know, stop trying to make us feel like that Charlotte has nothing to offer to anybody. She got a lot to offer. Okay, so let's just stop that. Okay, so that was my soapbox moment for this video. Let's go to topic number 3, and we'll also talk about the Kevin Owens thing with this as well. Okay, so this last topic kind of has to do a little bit to do with the first 2 topics, right? They've talked about, so I've talked about, the builds of Jey Uso and Gunther, and the builds of Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton. And now sometimes the fans they weren't too into it for a various amount of reasons. Well, I think one of those other reasons why is I think they felt like the builds have just been too long, right? Like, I think someone said like they didn't get to the meat of the builds because it was so long from WrestleMania for both of them. These have both been WrestleMania feuds. They both won the Royal Rumble, Charlotte Flair and Jey Uso, they also chose their opponents pretty quickly. Within the first 2 to 3 weeks, I believe, of them after winning the Royal Rumble, they went ahead and then they chose their opponents, and then you have a whole 2 full months, or a month and a half, whatever it is, to make this build up. And I think one of the reasons why this has been a long build is because for some reason they decided to push WrestleMania back normally to the 2 to 3 weeks than what they normally would have. Normally WrestleMania has been either that first weekend in April or the last weekend in March. It's either been one of those 2, right? So if they would have done it this year, WrestleMania would have been, it would have been this past weekend if they did it normally. Now, I believe when they announced that it was going to be, this late last year, I think one of the reasons why they said, if I remember correctly, was that they didn't want to be around March Madness, because usually, WrestleMania is also around March Madness, and the finals of the March Madness. And even though they don't directly compete on most part, they compete Saturday. Since they're going to 2 nights, they compete on the Saturday night. Or people would watch March Madness and then or the WWE. Another reason why you should go back to one night, but that's neither here nor there. And then of course Monday Night Raw, the National Championship game would be on a Monday, and there's also Monday Night Raw. So you compete Monday Night Raw with that one as well. So they pushed them and said they wouldn't have to compete with that, right? They can get all of the sporting world's eyes on them. And in fact, next year, WrestleMania 42 from New Orleans is gonna be a week later. It's gonna be Saturday the 11th and Sunday the 12th. So that's what it's gonna be like that for next year. And that, even still, again, that might be a little bit, that might be a little bit too long, because I think next year Royal Rumble is going to be in Saudi Arabia, and they're going back to January for that. Royal Rumble was in February this year. I think they're going back to January for the Royal Rumble, and so they're gonna have to figure out a way next year to do this, and there's plenty of ways to do it. Again, I don't think you need to announce the competitors so quickly. Because I think what you can do is, if you're gonna keep the elimination chamber the way it is, you can have, instead of having the chamber be selected for the next superstar, right, find another way to do that. Or even still, like if you still want to have the chamber matches, right? That would select the opponents for the other ones. You could still have the champions that the Royal Rumble winners are facing, have them face off in matches at Chamber. So, for instance, if Jey Uso, like, you take this year, Jey Uso face Gunther, maybe you should have Gunther go like 1-on-1. I don't know. Maybe you have Gunther in a triple threat match with Punk, Punk but you know what I'm saying. Have him in another match to see that, so that even though you're thinking it's gonna still go one way, it still would be a match. And now that you bring back Saturday Night main event, you can even do that as well. Maybe there should have been a Saturday night's main event in between this build, where Gunther and Tiffany would have to defend the title against somebody. Maybe making it not necessarily a given that it would have been, those ones. It would have been Jey and Gunther and Tiffany and at WrestleMania. So there's many ways to do it. I think the most obvious one is still just to go back to doing it the old way. You've already announced WrestleMania for this year, for 2026, but 2027, go back to having it. So either the first weekend, the first weekend in April, or the last weekend in March, or by that time, it'll be a combination of two in 2027. March 31st will be Saturday, and April 1st will be a Sunday, if I'm correct, right? Am I correct on that, or am I going by it? No, actually, I'm not going by it. I am wrong on that. So it was 2 years from now, because it was moving right. So, and then it was moving forward, and not moving backwards. So, 2027, it would actually be, Saturday would be the 3rd, and Sunday would be the 4th. That's perfect. That's perfect. Again, or again, still the last one in March. So that last weekend in March. So so I think that's one of the reasons why sometimes people have wondered about this build, and they talk about maybe the WrestleMania build in general, not just Jey and Gunther and Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton, but the whole WrestleMania build in general. They felt like there have been maybe some things where they could have skipped parts, or they've stretched out some things like that, doing contract signings for a lot of people, and they're having this thing now with EO and Bianca and Rhea Ripley, and they're not getting to the thing. It finally feels like they're not just announcing Priest and Drew from WrestleMania. They still haven't announced the triple threat match. Or are we just gonna do EO versus Bianca, and then and not have Rhea Ripley, and have Rhea Ripley F up the show? And there's still other matches that they want to announce. You got, apparently, it's going to be New Day. Well, actually, no. I think the tag title match is tonight. New Day versus the War Raiders. But I think they're having a SmackDown. They're having a gauntlet for the women's tag title match at WrestleMania. So there's so many things that they are doing here, that they're doing, and they're just announcing. So the build has been it's kind of been too long. And I think another thing happens when you have these type of builds is you have to worry about injuries, right? Now, and you have to worry about injuries to maybe some of their marquee players and your marquee matches. We saw Drew McIntyre have an eye patch on his eye in his promo on SmackDown because he got glass in his eye, you know, after the spot a couple weeks ago on SmackDown, being choked, being stopped of heaven, you know, through the car windshield. But obviously, I think he's going to be fine enough to, you know, to wrestle at WrestleMania, whether he wrestles with the eye patch on or not. Unfortunately, someone who's not going to be able to wrestle at WrestleMania is Kevin Owens. We were obviously heading down the road of being Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania. But apparently on Friday, Kevin Owens announced that he's been wrestling with a bad neck for about the last 4 months. And now it's gotten to the point now where it's getting so bad enough now that he needs surgery. And he's not going to be able to wrestle at WrestleMania. He's not going to be able to wrestle Randy Orton at WrestleMania. And it sucks. It does suck. And it's awful. You know, when you talk about these neck injuries, you always talk about, you know, is it career threatening? And again, I'm guessing he's gonna have to do the stuff that everybody's done. He's gonna do what Austin did, do what Kurt Angle did, what Edge did, what Benoit did. All those guys, you know, I think they're probably to do the neck fusion surgery, right? And listen, Kevin Owens has been at this for a long time. I was going back and I was watching John Cena matches because probably sometime this year, later this year, I'm gonna do the top 10 John Cena matches, you know, of all time, for his, you know, to celebrate his retiring. I wanted to do it at the end of last year, at the beginning of this year, but things got too hectic. I couldn't do it. So now I'm watching those matches now. There's some say that John Cena's greatest matches. I'm watching them now and to see where they're at so that I can put them in a thing and order them and everything like that. So I just watched the Kevin Owens John Cena match from Elimination Chamber 2015. But Kevin Owens won and he beat John Cena. And in that one, I believe Cole said that Kevin Owens had been wrestling on the Indies for 15 years. At that time, and that was 2015. 2015. We're now 10 years later. So does that mean that now he should he continue? Does he want to continue? We're talking about a serious neck injury here. And, you know, I think it's unfortunate, and it really sucks for Kevin Owens. And I wish nothing for the best for him, and I hope he can come back. If at the very least, I hope that he can come back and just maybe do a John Cena thing, have one last run, be able to do one last run so that he can go out on his terms and not go out due to an injury, right? So one last run. So they did the whole thing. They even had Randy Orton come out and talk about it, things like that. So So that match is scrapped for WrestleMania, and I don't know what they're going to do. I think you could have Randy Orton on this card. There's a lot of things you can do about it. You can have him face the new guy, Rey Fenix. Sheamus is not. I don't think if Sheamus is healthy, they have a Randy Orton versus Sheamus match at WrestleMania, especially now with both guys seem to be like in a career renaissance. You know, where 10 years ago people would have said, really? But this should be okay. I'll take it. You know, this is gonna snap. So I think there's a lot of things you can do with this, with Randy Orton, everything like that. So I think that's very interesting to see what they do with that. Andrade apparently has been complaining, you know, That's a match you can do. Andrade versus Randy Orton. You know, they're talking about Andrade being the first feud for Rey Fenix. I think this is maybe a good way to turn Andrade heel. You know, maybe have this thing where it's a respect match between Andrade and Randy Orton. Randy Orton obviously wins. Andrade, they shake hands afterwards, but then Andrade turns on Randy Orton. That's one way you can do it. I think that's a nice way to go about it. So then now you set up Andrade versus Rey Fenix. You can do it like that. Andrade's turned heel and everything like that. I think there's also other things you can do with Randy Orton probably as well. So there's other things like that. So I'm going to talk about something else before I ended it. See, I was going talking and I talked about it. I wanted to bring this up because I understand we're in a totally new era, but there's a part of me that found it kind of strange that Kevin Owens, the big bad heel that's been, you know, power driving people, hurting their necks, now has a neck injury, and he came out basically for the sympathy, which he deserves. And then I also found out that Randy Orton to come out there, and again, I don't think they really said anything. They kind of just passed like ships in the night, as the old saying is. Maybe came out there for some respect. That he in his promo, he also said that he was gutted that he couldn't wrestle Randy Orton at WrestleMania. We know Kevin Owens in real life has much respect for Randy Orton, and to be at WrestleMania to wrestle Randy Orton, that probably means the world to him. But I did find it weird that, and maybe they did that because, yeah, we don't know what could be happening with Kevin Owens. So we want to celebrate Kevin Owens. We don't want to like have Kevin Owens' last appearance be where, you know, Randy Orton is telling Kevin Owens, that's what you get. This is what you get. You power drive me, you package power drive Cody, you package power drive your best friend Sami Zayn, trying to break our necks, and now you broken yours. Karma, bitch. You know, I guess you can't, you know, I guess you can't really do that. Now maybe if Kevin Owens can come back, maybe that's something that you bring back up. Maybe he comes back, attacks Orton. Hopefully Orton is still babyface at that time, and then you can, you know, say, I had sympathy for you. You know, even though you tried to break my neck, you had broken yours, and I had sympathy for you. So I was trying to be a better person, but all you did was just, you know. So maybe that's what you do. So I'm not certain, but like I said, I did find it a little strange that they did that with a heel. But the most important thing out of this is that we hope the best for Kevin Owens. We hope he's, you know, whether he's able to continue his career or not. The most important thing is that he's able to get healthy and have a great quality of life as he continues on in his life. If that makes any sense. Okay. Just get well, Kevin Owens. Let's wrap this up. Alright, y'all. So once again, there will be no That's the Shoot this week. This is like your That's the Shoot for this week. It's not on a Friday. It's on a Monday. But there will be a That's a Shoot next week, where we will be talking about predictions for NXT Stand and Deliver, of course, WrestleMania Saturday and WrestleMania Sunday. So, I want you to be there and be square. Alright, y'all. Post your comments down below. Tell me what you guys think. If you have any thoughts on, like, what I talked about with Jey Uso and Gunther, talked about with Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton, or I talked about with WrestleMania and the build being too long. If also any thoughts about, you know, Kevin Owens, his injury status, unfortunately, and what they might do with Randy Orton. Post them all down in the comment section below. Make sure you like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. This is your boy, AJTRIP, signing off. As always, be good to each other, y'all. Be careful out there. And I am out.